Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Sri Mate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Trinadapi Sunichena Taradeva Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. Hare Nama Hare Nama Kevalam Kalo Nastyeva Gatiranyatha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Today we have 6 different episodes of Krishna-lila. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. The first one is called Shravanam, hearing. Aishvarasya samagrasya viryasya yashasa sriya jnana vairagayos chaiva shanang bhaga itingana. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, is always full with 6 opulences: complete wealth, complete strength, complete fame, complete knowledge, complete beauty, and complete renunciation. Krishna appears in different, complete, eternal forms of incarnation. And the conditioned soul has immense opportunity to hear about the transcendental activities of Krishna in all of these different incarnations. In the Bhagavad Gita it is said, Janma karma cha me divyam. The pastimes and activities of Krishna are not material. They are beyond the material conception. And the conditioned soul can benefit by hearing such uncommon activities. Therefore, hearing is an opportunity to associate with Krishna. To hear Krishna's activities is to evolve to the transcendental nature. Simply by hearing, the conditioned soul has a natural aptitude to hear something about other conditioned souls in the form of fiction, drama, and novel. That inclination to hear something about others may be utilized in hearing the pastimes of Krishna. Then one can immediately evolve to his or her transcendental nature. Krishna's pastimes are not only beautiful, they are also very pleasing to the mind. So if someone takes advantage of hearing the pastimes of Krishna, then the material contamination of dust accumulated in the heart due to long association with material nature can be immediately cleansed. Lord Chaitanya also instructed, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. Simply by hearing the transcendental name of Lord Krishna, one can cleanse the heart of all material contamination. There are different processes for self-realization, but this process of devotional service, of which hearing is the most important function, when adopted, will immediately cleanse one of the material contamination and enable one to realize his or her real constitutional position. Conditional life is due to this contamination only, and as soon as it is cleared off, then naturally the dormant function of the living entity, namely rendering service to Krishna, awakens. Out of his causeless mercy, Krishna descends to this material world and displays his activities just like an ordinary man. Unfortunately, impersonalists or atheists consider Krishna to be an ordinary man like themselves, and so they deride Krishna. This is condemned in Bhagavad Gita by Krishna himself when Krishna says, Avajananti mang mudha. The mudhas are rascals. Take Krishna to be an ordinary man or a slightly more powerful man, and out of their great misfortune, they cannot accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So now the second episode is called Shakata Asura, the cart demon. When Krishna grew up a little more, Krishna began to turn himself backside up. Krishna did not merely lie down on his back. Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj then observed Krishna's first birthday ceremony. All the cowherder men and women were invited to participate in the jubilant celebration. A nice band played, and the people assembled enjoyed it. All the learned brahmanas were invited, and they chanted Vedic hymns for the good fortune of Krishna. During this ceremony, Krishna was bathed by Mother Yashoda. On this occasion, Mother Yashoda arranged to distribute a large quantity of grains, and first-class cows decorated with golden ornaments were made ready to be given in charity to the learned, respectable brahmanas. Yashoda took her bath and then dressed herself nicely, and taking child Krishna, duly dressed and bathed, upon her lap, Yashoda sat down to hear the Vedic hymns chanted by the brahmanas. While listening to the chanting of the Vedic hymns, Krishna appeared to be falling asleep, and therefore Yashoda very silently laid Krishna down on a bed. Being engaged in receiving all the friends, relatives, and residents of Vrindavana on that holy occasion, Yashoda had forgotten to feed milk to Krishna. Being hungry, Krishna was crying, but Mother Yashoda could not hear Krishna crying because of the various noises of the ceremony. Krishna, however, became angry because Yashoda was not paying any attention to him. Krishna then lifted his legs and began to kick with his lotus feet, just like an ordinary child. As it was, baby Krishna had been placed underneath a hand-driven cart, and while Krishna was kicking, Krishna accidentally touched the wheel of the cart and it collapsed. Various kinds of utensils and dishes made of brass and other metals had been piled up in the handcart, and they all fell down with a great noise. The wheel of the cart separated from the axle, and the spokes of the wheel were all broken and scattered hither and thither. Shakata Asura was a ghost who had taken shelter of the handcart, and was looking for the opportunity to do mischief to Krishna. When Krishna kicked the cart with his small and very delicate legs, the ghost was immediately pushed down to the earth, and Shakata Asura's shelter was now dismantled. Mother Yashoda and all the gopis, as well as Maharaj Nanda and the other cowherder men, were astonished to see how the cart could have collapsed by itself. All the men and women who were assembled for the holy function crowded around and began to suggest how the cart might have collapsed. But no one could ascertain the cause. However, some small children who were entrusted to play with baby Krishna informed the crowd that it was due to Krishna striking his feet against the wheel. They assured the crowd that they had indeed seen just how it had happened with their own eyes, and they strongly asserted the point. Some of the elders were listening to the statement of the small children, but others said, "Oh, how can you believe the statements of these small children?" The cowherder men and women could not understand that the all-powerful personality of Godhead was lying there as a baby, and that Krishna could do anything, for both the possible and impossible were within Krishna's power. And while the discussion was going on, baby Krishna started to cry. Without protest, Mother Yashoda picked up Krishna upon her lap and called the learned brahmanas to chant holy Vedic hymns to counteract the evil spirits. At the same time, Yashoda allowed Krishna to suck her breast. And after this, all the stronger cowherder men put the broken cart back in order, and all the scattered things were set up nicely as before. The brahmanas thereafter began to offer oblations to the sacrificial fire with yogurt, butter, kusha grass, and water. They worshiped Lord Vishnu for the good fortune of child Krishna. They were all bona fide brahmanas, and there was no reason to think that their blessings would be useless. With firm faith in the qualified brahmanas, Nanda Maharaj took Krishna on his lap and bathed Krishna with water mixed with various herbs, while the brahmanas chanted hymns from the Rig, Yajur, and Samavedas. As the brahmanas chanted the Vedic hymns and performed the ritualistic ceremonies for the second time, Nanda Maharaj again gave huge quantities of grains and many cows to the brahmanas. Nanda gave so many cows just for the welfare of his wonderful child Krishna, and the brahmanas in return bestowed their heartfelt blessings. And so the blessings offered by the able brahmanas were never to be baffled. Now we go to episode 3. This is the third demon. Last week we heard about the first demon, Putana. Now we just heard about the second demon, Shakata Asura. So now this is demon number 3, Trinavarta, the whirlwind demon. One day, shortly after the first birthday ceremony of Krishna, when Mother Yashoda was patting Krishna on her lap, baby Krishna felt too heavy, and so being unable to carry him, Yashoda unwillingly placed Krishna on the ground. And after a while, Yashoda became engaged in household affairs. At that time, a servant of Kamsa's, known as Trinavarta, as instructed by Kamsa, appeared there in the shape of a whirlwind. Trinavarta picked up child Krishna, putting him on his shoulders, and thus raised a great dust storm all over Vrindavan, which covered everyone's eyes. Within a few moments, the whole area of Vrindavan became so densely dark that no one could see oneself or anyone else. During this great catastrophe, Mother Yashoda could not see her Krishna, who was taken away by the Whirlwind demon. And so Yashoda began to cry very piteously. Yashoda fell down on the ground, exactly like a cow who has just lost her calf. When Mother Yashoda was so piteously crying, all the cowherder women immediately came and began to look for baby Krishna, but they were disappointed and could not find where Krishna was. The Trinavarta demon went high into the sky with baby Krishna upon his shoulder. But Krishna then assumed such a great weight that suddenly Trinavarta could go no further. And so Trinavarta had to stop his whirlwind activities. Baby Krishna made himself so heavy, he began to weigh down the demon, and he caught hold of Trinavarta's neck. Trinavarta felt baby Krishna to be as heavy as a big mountain, and Trinavarta tried to get out of Krishna's clutches. But Trinavarta was unable to do so. Then Trinavarta's eyes popped out from their sockets. Crying very fiercely, Trinavarta fell down to the ground of Vrindavan, and he died. The demon fell exactly like Tripura Asura, who was pierced by the arrows of Lord Shiva. Trinavarta hit a stone slab, and his limbs were smashed. Trinavarta's body thus became visible to all the inhabitants of Vrindavan. And when the gopis saw the demon killed, and child Krishna very happily playing on Trinavarta's dead body, they immediately picked Krishna up with great affection. The cowherder men and women thus became very happy to get back their beloved child Krishna. At that time, they began to talk about how wonderful it was that although the demon had taken away child Krishna to devour him, still Trinavarta could not do so. Instead, Trinavarta fell down dead. Some of them supported this situation. Yes, this is proper, because those who are too sinful die from their sinful reactions. And this child Krishna is pious. Therefore, Krishna is saved from all kinds of fearful situations. And we too also must have performed great sacrifices in our previous lives, worshiping Lord Vishnu, giving great wealth in charity, and acting philanthropically for the general welfare of men. Because of such pious activities, child Krishna is saved from all danger. The gopis who had assembled there also spoke among themselves. What sort of austerities and penances must we have undergone in our previous lives? We must have worshipped Lord Vishnu. We must have offered different kinds of sacrifices, made charities, and have performed many welfare activities for the public. And as a result of these pious activities, we have gotten back our child, even though Krishna was supposed to be dead. Now, Krishna has come back to enliven all of his relatives. After observing such wonderful happenings, Nanda Maharaj began to think of the words of Vasudeva again and again, just to refresh your memory. The words of Vasudeva was when Nanda Maharaj went to pay the taxes to Kamsa. And so when he went to Mathura, he stopped and went to see his friend Vasudeva. And as Nanda was leaving, Vasudeva told him that, so this is what he said. This is exactly what he said. "Oh, my dear brother, since you have paid the annual taxes to Kamsa, and you have also seen me, do not stay in this place for many days. It is better for you to return to Gokula, since I feel there may be some disturbances there." So now we go to the next episode, Yashoda's universal vision. So the picture behind me, that is the episode that we're now going to hear. After the incident of Trinavarta, the whirlwind demon, Yashoda was once nursing child Krishna. Patting Krishna with great affection, there streamed a profuse supply of milk from her breast. And when Yashoda opened the mouth of Krishna with her fingers, Yashoda suddenly saw the complete universal manifestation within Krishna's mouth. Yashoda saw within the mouth of Krishna the whole sky, including the luminaries, the stars in all directions, the sun, moon, fire, air, seas, islands, mountains, rivers, forests, and all other movable and immovable kinds of entities. And when Mother Yashoda saw all this, her heart began to throb, and so she murmured within herself, "Oh, how wonderful this is." Yashoda could not express anything, but simply closed her eyes. Yashoda was absorbed in wonderful thoughts. Now we go to the next episode. This is a conversation between Nanda Maharaj and Garga Muni. After this incident of Yashoda seeing everything in Krishna's mouth, Vasudeva asked his family priest, Garga Muni, to visit the place of Nanda Maharaj in order to astrologically calculate the future life of Krishna. Garga Muni was a great saintly sage who had undergone many austerities and penances and had been appointed priest of the Yadu dynasty. When Garga Muni arrived at the home of Nanda Maharaj, Nanda was very pleased to see Garga Muni, and he immediately stood up with folded hands, offering respectful obeisances. Nanda Maharaj received Garga Muni with the feeling of one who was worshipping God. Nanda offered Garga Muni a nice sitting place, and when Garga Muni sat down, Nanda offered Garga Muni a warm reception. Addressing Garga Muni very politely, Nanda Maharaj then said, "Oh, my dear Brahmana, your appearance in a householder's place is only to enlighten. We are always engaged in household duties and are forgetting our real duty of self-realization. Your coming to our house is to give us some enlightenment about spiritual life. You have no other purpose to visit householders." Nanda Maharaj then addressed Garga Muni as one of the great authorities in astrological science. The foretellings of astrological science, such as the occurrence of solar or lunar eclipses, are wonderful calculations. And by this calculation, and by this particular science, a person can understand the future very clearly. Gargamuni was proficient in this knowledge. By this knowledge, one can understand what one's previous activities were that are causing one to enjoy or suffer in this life. Nanda Maharaj also addressed Gargamuni as the best of the Brahmanas. A Brahmana is one who is expert in the knowledge of the Supreme. For without knowledge of the Supreme Absolute, one cannot be recognized as a Brahmana. Nanda Maharaj happened to be a Vaishya, and so he accepted Gargamuni as a first-class Brahmana. Nanda therefore offered his two sons, Krishna and Balaram, for Gargamuni to purify. Upon this request, Gargamuni replied, "Vasudeva has sent me to see to the reformatory performances of these boys, especially Krishna. But if I do so, it may incidentally appear that Krishna is the son of Devaki, since I am Vasudeva's family priest." By his astrological calculation, Gargamuni could understand that Krishna was indeed the son of Devaki, but that Krishna was being kept under the care of Nanda Maharaj, which Nanda did not know. Indirectly, Gargamuni said that Krishna and Balaram were both sons of Vasudeva. It was a fact that Balaram was known as the son of Vasudeva because his mother Rohini was present there. But Nanda Maharaj did not know about Krishna. So Gargamuni indirectly disclosed the fact that Krishna was the son of Devaki. Gargamuni also warned Nanda Maharaj that if he were to perform the reformatory ceremony, then Kamsa, who was naturally very sinful, would come to understand that Krishna was actually the son of Devaki and Vasudeva. According to astrological calculation, Devaki could not have a female child, although everyone thought that the eighth child of Devaki was female, because Vasudeva had switched babies at the birth. So in this way, Gargamuni intimated to Nanda Maharaj that the female child was born of Yashoda and that Krishna was born of Devaki and that they were exchanged. The female child, or Durga, had also informed Kamsa that the child who would kill Kamsa was already born somewhere else. Gargamuni then told Nanda Maharaj, "So, if I give your child a name, and if he is the one that fulfills the prophecy of the female child to Kamsa, then it may be that that sinful demon will come and try to kill this child after the name-giving ceremony. I do not want to become responsible for all these future calamities." Upon hearing the words of Gargamuni, Nanda Maharaj replied, "All right, if there is such a danger, then it is better not to plan any gorgeous name-giving ceremony. It would be better for you to simply chant the Vedic hymns and perform the purificatory process. After all, we belong to the twice-born caste, and I am taking this opportunity of your presence. So please perform the name-giving ceremony without external pomp." Nanda Maharaj wanted to keep the name-giving ceremony a secret, and yet take advantage of Garga Muni's performing the ceremony. Now we come to the next episode. This is the actual name-giving ceremony of Krishna and Balaram. When Garga Muni was so eagerly requested by Nanda Maharaj, he performed the name-giving ceremony as secretly as possible in the cowshed of Nanda Maharaj. Garga Muni informed Nanda Maharaj that the son of Rohini would be very pleasing to his family members and relatives, and therefore would be called Rama. In the future, he would be extraordinarily strong, and therefore he would be known as Balaram or Baladev. Garga Muni said further, "Because your family and the family of the Yadus are so intimately connected and attracted, his name will also be Sankarshana." Garga Muni carefully did not disclose the fact that Balaram also appeared in the womb of Devaki first, but was then subsequently transferred to the womb of Rohini. Therefore, Krishna and Balaram are real brothers, being originally sons of Devaki. Garga Muni then informed Nanda Maharaj, "Now, as far as your own son is concerned, this child has taken different bodily complexions in different yugas. First of all, he assumed the color white, then the color red, and later the color yellow. But for now, he has assumed the color black. Besides that, he was formerly the son of Vasudeva. Therefore, his name should be Vasudeva, as well as Krishna. Some people will call him Krishna, and some will call him Vasudeva. But one thing you must know, Nanda, this son of yours has had many other names and activities due to his different pastimes." Garga Muni further hinted to Nanda Maharaj that his son would also be called Giridhari because of his uncommon pastime of lifting Govardhan Hill. Since Garga Muni was an astrologer, he could understand everything, past and future. Thus, Garga Muni next said, "I know everything about Krishna's activities and names, but others do not know. This child will be very pleasing to all the cowherder men and the cows. Being very popular in Vrindavan, Krishna will be the cause of all good fortune for you. Because of Krishna's presence, you will overcome all kinds of material calamities, despite opposing elements. And so, my dear king of Braja, in Krishna's previous births, this child many times protected righteous people from the hands of rogues and thieves whenever there was political disruption. Your child is so powerful that anyone who will become a devotee of your son will never be troubled by enemies. Just as the demigods are always protected by Lord Vishnu, the devotees of your child will always be protected by Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This child will grow in power, beauty, opulence. He will grow in just about everything on the level of Narayan. I therefore advise you, Nanda, protect Krishna very carefully so that he may grow without disturbance. In other words, Garga Muni informed Nanda Maharaj that because he was a great devotee of Narayan, Lord Narayan had given a son equal to him. At the same time, Garga Muni indicated that this son would be disturbed by so many demons, and that Nanda should therefore be careful and protect Krishna. In this way, Garga Muni convinced Nanda Maharaj that Narayana himself had indeed become Nanda's son. And so in various ways, Garga Muni described the transcendental qualities of his son, Krishna. So now I simply want to review all these sections we studied today. So first section, we heard about the importance of Shravanam, hearing. Prabhupada was mentioning how hearing is so powerful, and one can become purified simply by hearing. So these weekly classes that we have, please try to see it in that way. The way to attend these classes is to have rapt attention and not be distracted, and try to hear everything with rapt attention, no distractions. The next scene, we heard about the Shakata Asura, the cart demon, who was a ghost taking shelter of the cart, and how Krishna, who is now only 1 year old, was able to kill this cart demon simply by kicking his legs, and the whole cart collapsed, and Krishna was undisturbed. And how the young playmates of Krishna, they told everyone exactly what happened, but the adults, they could not comprehend, they couldn't accept what the children were saying because it defied all logic. But the children tried their best. Then in this third episode, we heard about the third demon, Trinavarta, the Whirlwind demon, who was sent by Kamsa, and he created a great dust storm. And he took Krishna way up into the sky. But Krishna held tight to his neck, and Krishna made himself heavier than a mountain. After all, there are 8 kinds of yogic siddhis: to become lighter than the lightest, to become the heaviest of the heavy. So Krishna naturally has all yogic powers. Why? Because Krishna is Yogeshvara. He is the controller of all yogis. He is the master of all mystic powers. So it was not difficult, even though Krishna has appeared in this baby form, still he's God. Still he can do anything. Nothing is impossible for Krishna. So by holding tightly to the neck of Trinavarta, and by becoming so heavy, Trinavarta fell down dead. Then the next episode, Yashoda sees the universe within Krishna's mouth. And there will be another episode later on, where again, for a second time, Yashoda will see the entire universe. And in the next time this occurs, she will see not only the universe, but herself and Krishna in Krishna's mouth. So twice, Yashoda opens Krishna's mouth and gets the universal vision. Then, the next episode we heard was the conversation between Nanda and Gargamuni. And Gargamuni, in so many ways, was giving hints to Nanda Maharaj that this son of his was actually the son of Vasudeva. But of course, Nanda Maharaj does not know this, because if you remember, when Krishna appeared and the babies were switched, Yashoda was asleep. And so when she woke up, she could not remember whether she had given birth to a boy or a girl. So when she woke up after giving birth, she saw Krishna. So as far as Yashoda and Nanda know, Krishna is their son. But Gargamuni knows the real scene. So he was trying to intimate in so many ways that Krishna is actually the son of Vasudeva. And Gargamuni awarded 3 names to Balaram: Rama, Baladeva, and Sankarshana. And then he explained how this son of Nanda, Krishna, the one thing that I really remember, that I really like, is that anyone who becomes a devotee of this Krishna will always be protected from one's enemies. So that's good to know, because there is a verse in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, very early in Srimad Bhagavatam. The sages of Naimisharanya, headed by Shaunaka Rishi, asked 6 questions of Sutta Goswami. And in asking those questions, Shaunaka says that fear personified is afraid of even the name of Krishna. So we should not miscalculate when we are chanting this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Fear personified is afraid of this name of Krishna. So we should be very, very confident about chanting the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Tat Sat.